CyberHub bunker and studio. You're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday, July 18th, 2022. It's supposed to be the hottest week of the year. In the UK, they're expecting over 100 degrees. The UK. So anyone here in the UK, in the awesome United Kingdom, I hope you stay cool. Find a source of water, dip, don't leave it, just stay there until it cools off. Now is the time to do that. All right, we've got a packed show for you. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Good morning, and I am live today. This is not pre-recorded, so Anthony, good morning to Brent, Scott, Bill, Chandler, good morning to Chris, good morning to Ralph, David, and Travis. I hope you all are doing well, security gang. And glad you're all here today. So a packed show, CISO perspective. Let's get this thing going. But before we do that, it's Monday morning, and like many of you, we need something to pick up and get us going this week. I've got my double espresso, whatever you're drinking this morning. I hope you enjoy it. Coffee cup, cheers. Let's get into this powerful Mantis DDoS botnet that's hitting about 1,000 organizations in 1 month. This is coming from Cloudflare, where they say they saw a record-breaking 26 million requests per second coming through a TLS 1.2 HTTPS type of address. So this is significant. Traditional kind of old school DDoS never came from a HTTPS, typically came from HTTP. There were ways to mitigate this. This is coming from a TLS encrypted connection. Mantis is the next evolution of the Maris botnet. The Maris relied on the micro tick devices, but Mantis has branches out to include a variety of VM platforms and supports running various HTTP proxies to launch the attack. This was a record-breaking type. 22 million RPSs was the last record. That was in September of 2021. Now we're seeing 26 million. So DDoS is definitely picking up. More than 20% of the targets were organizations within the US, 15 were Russian companies, and the rest were Turkey, France, and Poland rounded up the top 5. You know who's off this list? China. It takes a lot of computing to put something like this together. Lots of computing. Just saying. We're going to talk about China in a minute. Juniper is releasing patches for a critical flaw in the Junos OS and Contrail networking. So Juniper pushed security updates over the weekend, affecting multiple products, some of which could be exploited to seize controls of the affected system. The most criticals of the flaw affects the Junos space and Contrail networking, with the tech company urging customers to release versions 22.1 R1 and 21.4.0 respectively. Chief among them is a collection of 31 bugs in the Junos space network management software, including CVE 2021-23017 with a CVSS score of 9.4 that could result in a crash of vulnerable devices or even achieve arbitrary code execution. The patch has been issued. Make sure you get those products patched. Critical at this point. A supply chain attack technique spoofs GitHub commit data, according to researchers over at Checkmarks. The new supply chain attack techniques that relies on spoofed commit metadata to add legitimacy to malicious GitHub repositories. Open source softwares help developers create applications faster. According to Checkmarks, threat actors could forge some of the data associated with GitHub repositories to enhance their track record and make them look more likely to be selected by application developers. Specifically, the researchers discovered that one could tamper with commit metadata so that a repository would appear to be older than it actually is, or that reputable contributors have been involved in its maintenance. Commits are essentials to the Git version control system. They record changes made to files, and when these changes were made and who made them, each commit has a unique ID or hash. Manipulating a time step associated with these commits in such a manner creates a supply chain risk for that as well, making the project look more reliable, making developers use it, and thus giving an eternal backdoor. That's why the SBOM, the software bill of materials that Microsoft released last week, in GitHub, in everything you do is going to be so critical. The education around how do you pick within your policy of how you're picking softwares within GitHub, how you're recording them, how you're monitoring, having someone going in and observing it, running some tests on it as well would be really significant, especially as we move to a software world, and we're there already. Israel woke up with the health ministry website blocked after a cyber attack from pro-Iranian group El Tahara team. El Tahara stands for pure in Arabic. Reportedly claims responsibility for the incident. Says the assault is prompted by the weekend IDF strikes in the Gaza Strip and the Israeli support of Iranian sanctions. The cyber attack disrupted access to the health ministry websites to users from abroad and briefly within Israel, although the Israeli CERT and their incident response teams were able to get the website up locally. They had to block all foreign DNS records and IPs coming through to keep the site available to Israelis within Israel, but blocked it for Israelis who were abroad who were looking for health information. This is happening after obviously a attack took place against Israel by the Gaza, by Hamas terrorists in Gaza. Israel responded. The El Tahara is a group of pro-Iranian hackers that are based in Iraq. They claimed responsibility, according to Hebrew media websites. On their Telegram, they reportedly wrote that the attack was carried out for that, and you're obviously seeing now some of that hacktivism take place after President Biden was in the region. Obviously, there's some issues that are still ongoing there, including the for those who missed the Palestinian reception and the botchering of the Star-Spangled Banner. One can go and watch that as well. So, Chinese hackers targeted U.S. reporters before the January 6th Capitol attack and the Russian invasion, according to a report. This coming from, I believe, Proofpoint, that says that Chinese-aligned hackers targeted White House correspondents and other U.S. political reporters in the run-up to the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, as well as the Russian invasion of the Ukraine. The report highlights the cybersecurity risks facing journalists and other members of the news media have long been attractive targets for cyber spies, especially when it comes to this and misinformation. The threat actor Proofpoint tracks as TA412 carried out a series of phishing attempts targeting U.S.-based journalists since early 2021. According to the report, researchers believe that the attackers are aligned with Chinese government interests. In 2020, Microsoft reported the threat actor, which it dubbed as Zirconium, has targeted those connected to the U.S. presidential campaign, as well as think tanks that focused on international relations. China has a lot going on this week, especially with the semiconductor bill that's headed towards Congress and the Senate this week to get approved in order to create subsidies for organizations to build semiconductors in the U.S. and not rely on foreign semiconductors, especially given the risk that China is posing on Taiwan, the world's largest suppliers of semiconductors. They've targeted organizations like the Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post, among others. There's a whole email coming from that as well. This was used in one of the campaigns. Access to journalists' email or social accounts themselves can also be a valuable tool beyond the information they contain. They can spread disinformation or state propaganda, provide disinformation during times of war or pandemic, or influence politically charged atmospheres like the one we have in the country today. China is definitely the sitting in the back and taking a ton of action. We constantly hear Russia, but we don't hear enough about China. This has also happened to journalists involved with links to Turkey, North Korea, and Iran as well, using similar techniques like the Chinese in these cases. And finally, as we wrap up today's show, I've said several months ago when this year started, I said we're at a turn in the cybersecurity industry. One, economically, but number two, also with the way we practice security. And a Security Week analysis showed that there were 230 cybersecurity M&A deals announced in the first half of 2022. That's more than one per day in the first 182 days of this year. The analysis, which conducted, showed more than 230 cybersecurity-related mergers and acquisitions, which is a surge right now we're on pace to exceed the 435 that were announced last year. 195 involved companies in North America, 62 in Europe, and 14 in Asia, as well as 4 in South America and 11 in Australia. The majority of the transactions involved companies in the US, followed by the UK, Canada, Germany, and Australia. There have been fewer deals in Israel, which led to a drop in the overall volume of deals involving Asian organizations. Financial details were made public for 39 deals for a total of $51.5 billion, the deal size that exceeded $1 billion in the case of 7 acquisition. That includes the Vista Equity Partners and Evergreen Coast Capital acquiring Citrix for $16.5 billion, Google acquiring Mandiant for $5.4 billion, and Thoma Bravo acquiring SailPoint for $6.9 billion, and Kaseya acquiring Data for $6.2 billion. Now, what does this really mean? If you take a look, a lot of the consolidation and mergers happen in the MSSP space, and that's pretty typical. We're also seeing it in GRC network and identity, as well as data protection. But this is actually showing you how younger companies are getting acquired, or 2 mid-sized companies are coming together to try and create a conglomerate. This, again, is going to play into how CISOs are rethinking the way they pick their security partners and how we establish those types of relationships going forward. This is numbers that are sure to only increase here in the second half. As market slows down, companies with cash on hand will go and get merger and acquisitions. And they'll do that for 2 reasons. It may not have a direct purpose in terms of offerings, but it could for revenue. Meaning if you expect your revenue to drop a little bit, but you've got cash, you'll go acquire a company that has more substantive revenue so that you continue to show your shareholders that you still have that revenue. That's on the business side of it. On the security side of it, you're hoping to expand and become kind of a jack of all trades for a lot of your customers, or really be the best in category in a specific set. Could be data protection, mobile security, managed solutions, identity, network security, or anything else there as well. So the data is there, and for all of us to see and watch, folks. So a lot there, a lot going on in the industry, and we'll probably see more of that coming forth. Folks, that's it for our show today. We'll be back with a lot more tomorrow. Until then, I want to bid y'all a great rest of your day, a very successful and productive week, and most importantly, CyberHubPodcast.com, where you can catch all the latest content and stay cyber safe. Cheers.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.